Every day, the news cycle fixates on how artificial intelligence might end the world. We build safety frameworks, stress test models, and wring our hands over the risks. But this defensive posture has created a massive blind spot. We spend so much energy trying to prevent a catastrophe that we rarely stop to map out the positive future we are actually fighting to achieve. To see that upside, we have to look past the chatbots of today. Imagine an AI model smarter than a Nobel Prize winner across every scientific field. Now imagine we spin up 1 million distinct copies of that model, running day and night at 100 times normal human speed. You are essentially dealing with a country of geniuses living inside a data center. This diagram illustrates a common critique. Raw intelligence cannot solve everything. Even 1 million digital geniuses will eventually hit the speed limit of the physical world. Cells take time to grow in a petri dish, and physical hardware takes time to manufacture. Progress hits a hard wall governed by the laws of physics and the scarcity of real-world data. But as you can see by these branching paths, highly intelligent systems do not just push harder against a wall, they route around it. If animal testing takes too long, these systems design new experimental paradigms that model live tissues perfectly in vitro. They invent the exact tools needed to collect new data faster. If intelligence can successfully bypass these physical limits, the rate of discovery is no longer tethered to the human calendar. We are effectively entering an era where scientific progress is measured in weeks rather than decades. Nowhere is this compression more visible than in human biology. If you look at the historical trajectory of medical progress, condensing the expected output of the 21st century into a single decade yields astounding results. This requires treating AI not as a passive data analyzer, but as a virtual principal investigator. These systems will autonomously design experiments, directing physical laboratory equipment, and process the results, iterating fast enough to bypass the usual human bureaucratic delays of clinical trials. Operating at that speed, we can expect a sequential collapse of human disease. First, the reliable prevention of most natural infectious diseases using hyper-targeted mRNA technologies. Next, fixing genetic mutations at the source. And finally, deploying individualized treatments to neutralize the vast majority of human cancers. We have already proven we can wipe a disease off the map entirely. Between 1967 and 1977, a global coordination of testing and vaccination eliminated smallpox from the human population. AI offers the chance to apply that same victory to every remaining infectious disease at once. Once those diseases are cleared, the focus shifts to the aging process itself. By identifying objective biomarkers of aging that allow for rapid iteration on cellular repair, we can realistically double the healthy human lifespan to 150 years. And it extends beyond the physical body. By applying advanced computational methods to human neural networks, we can map the exact biochemical and structural causes of conditions like PTSD, severe depression, and schizophrenia, and develop precise interventions to cure them. By achieving this level of control over our own selves, we move into an era of biological freedom. Humans gain the autonomy to regulate their own joy, focus, and physical aging as a matter of individual choice. But a biological utopia restricted to the wealthiest nations is a massive moral failure. Developing a cure is only half the equation. The other half is making sure every human being on Earth actually gets it. Eradicating debilitating diseases like malaria and AIDS does more than save lives. It restores millions of man-hours to local economies. When you combine that massive surge in human productivity with AI-optimized financial planning, sustained GDP growth rates could hit 20%, fast enough for the developing world to finally catch up. However, improved health and wealth do not automatically produce world peace. Intelligence is a dual-use asset. The ability to monitor populations and generate highly persuasive propaganda makes AI a highly effective tool for authoritarian regimes. We learned this lesson the hard way during the social media era. Early optimists assumed a connected internet would inherently spread democracy. Instead, autocrats co-opted the very same networks to surveil dissidents and consolidate power. To prevent an AI-powered totalitarian future, democracies must secure the upper hand. This requires an intent strategy, where an allied coalition strictly controls the supply chains for critical semiconductor equipment, creating a durable technological monopoly. With that monopoly secured, the coalition can offer conditional access to these powerful AI tools to neutral nations. In exchange for access to the technology, those nations align themselves with democratic governance, isolating the worst regimes. Even inside those isolated repressive states, AI becomes a weapon for dissidents. Putting an uncensored, superhuman advisor in the pocket of every citizen breaks a state's monopoly on information, robbing autocrats of their psychological grip on the public. AI does not bend toward justice on its own, but if democracies execute this strategy, they can use the technology to enforce a level playing field, creating an unbeatable guarantor of global liberty and impartial justice. If we achieve all of this, if disease is eradicated, global governance is fair, and AI systems handle all the economic labor, it forces a deeply uncomfortable question. How do we survive, and what do we actually do all day? In a world where comparative advantage no longer applies to human labor, our current capitalist structures will fail. We will have to iterate on entirely new economic models, whether that means massive universal basic income or AI-subsidized resource networks that distribute the immense wealth generated by these systems. But the crisis of purpose is harder to map. People worry that human effort becomes meaningless if a machine can perform the same task flawlessly. Yet most of us play games, learn instruments, and pursue hobbies knowing perfectly well someone else can do it better. Trying to imagine a post-labor society today is like a hunter-gatherer trying to comprehend an industrial farming economy. They might assume life without the daily hunt lacks meaning, unable to fathom the new structures that would take its place. When human value fully detaches from economic output, meaning will simply revert to where it has always been most potent: human connection, personal growth, and taking on complex, self-directed challenges for the sheer joy of the attempt. We have to acknowledge how incredibly fragile this outcome is. This is a narrow path. Without immense effort, these systems could easily collapse into dystopia, deepen inequality, or wipe us out entirely. But this is exactly why we cannot let the risks monopolize our vision. A future defined by fairness, cooperation, and true biological freedom is not an impossible fantasy. It is the logical end state of our best human impulses, and it is a world worth fighting for.